What's going on, everybody? It's Nate Winicki back here in the studio. We're doing another tutorial today where we're going to be talking about how to make your own wind-on leaders. If you're a tuna fisherman, fly lining, knife jigging, especially kite fishing, this is the smoothest, the strongest, the best connection you can do from going from hollow core braid to either mono or fluoro, mostly fluoro though. Now, you might ask yourself why go through this effort, right? Like, it seems like a lot to be putting all this together. And really, it's because of strength. It's because of fishability. So the wind-on leader is almost 100% strength. And the reason they can do that is because when you use this, like, Seaguar Threadlock, epic line. So this is 16 strands of line all woven together so that it has this hollow inside. So what you're able to do, using the right tools, which I'm about to show you, get some of these needles and stuff, you were able to thread this fluoro inside the braid without actually tying any knots. And I'm sure we all played with these as a kid, the Chinese finger traps. Basically, as you pull together, all those kind of come tight, but if you go the opposite way, it goes loose. Exact same concept with hollow braid. This is just 16 of those little things all coming together. It's gonna tighten up on that line, and it's gonna be so strong, especially if you do 2 feet of it, that even without any serves or anything on the end, it's a damn good connection. Before we get into the rigging, I just wanna tell you guys, when you're matching up your lines, you wanna keep your diameters or your pound test pretty much the same. So I'm using 100 pound of the Threadlock, I'm using 100 pound of the Seaguar Premier, and you want to keep the ratio just like that. You can probably use 130 pound to 100 pound, but if you try to use like 130 pound with 40 pound, it's never going to work. With that, let's kind of get into the main things here. These are kind of the stars of the show. This is the Daiho rigging needles, and there's 2 in particular that we're dealing with. There is the hollow needle, which is just a straight, it has like a little bullet point there, but it's hollow on the inside. That's going to be used for your fluoro. And the other one, a little bit smaller guy, is the latch needle. It's not hollow, it's just a straight little thing, but it has a little latch on the other side that can hold little bits of line. Okay, so the very first step in making your own wind-on is creating a little loop. So this loop is what you do your bimini to cat's paw with. This is gonna connect it all. And to start this off, what you're gonna do is you're gonna measure out, and you can do a bunch of different things here. You're gonna measure out about 12 inches of line. And once you get that, you're gonna bend it and just make a mark. Easiest way of doing that is just kind of making a crease right there. And you're gonna double it up, and this is where you're gonna start everything. Now, before you cut anything off of your main spool, you wanna make your loop. It's gonna make it way easier to adjust it, make it all right, and once you know exactly how much line you need, then you can cut it. So for right now, this is staying just tied on. This is my main line, this is my tag right now. So we're gonna take the first needle, latch needle, and now this is probably the most frustrating part of the process. It's separating those threads together to make space for the needle. Now, I will have to give Seaguar credit. This Threadlock, the 16 strand stuff, makes it really easy. So basically, you just kind of push it together. It creates a little space in there, and you want to lie really flat. If you go too much at an angle, you'll just poke through the whole braid, and it's not going to work. You want to actually be inside of the braid. Boom. And what we're gonna start doing is just pushing this up the needle. And we're gonna push it up, continue going here, all the way to that little mark we made. This Threadlock is like butter on these little needles. This is great. So it pokes through just like that. You have this section here. Now, you got this little latch on the back, right? I was talking about that. You're gonna take the rest of your main line, and you're gonna pass it inside this little opening. You can put it inside, you can close it up. This lets it slide nice and easy throughout. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this needle and we're gonna pull it all the way through. So just like this, we're gonna pull, let it down. And as you see, we have a line coming through. And what this is the spectra going back in on itself, and it's gonna form a little loop. If you take that off of the needle, you have this little baby loop right now, but you're able to adjust it. So if you pull the top, this loop, you can make it as big as you want. Typically you want it to fit like, you want it about that size. You want to be able to fit your wrist in there, you know, just so it's easier to tie that bimini or that cat's paw when you need to. Now give yourself some line. It's all bunched up right now, but all you gotta do is just slowly work it down, and you're gonna push this line down back onto itself. Just like that. Smooth it all out. Make sure it's all good. And boom. Super nice, super clean, most importantly, super strong knot or loop at the end there. But as you see, we have this big old tag end. We're gonna have to get rid of that somehow. So what I do is I'll trim it down just a bit using some scissors here. And just maybe a ½ inch past where that first insertion is, we're gonna split up the braid again. So we're gonna make a little hole for ourselves. Take our same needle, latch needle. Again, try to lie as flat as you can with the braid. Also, the braid in front of your little spot has got to be straight. If it's bent anything, you're just going to be going right through it every single time, and you're going to like lose your mind. So what you're going to do is you're going to find a little spot. Sometimes it helps to like rotate the needle as you go through, but you'll get a feel for it. Sick. So ½ inch above that first little insertion, we're gonna do the exact same thing. We're just gonna slide on this up. And again, we have unlimited amount of line here, so don't worry about your braid. The longer you make these sections, the better, because more of that Chinese finger trap thing is gonna do it. You don't wanna be stingy with the amount that you do. Sometimes it's kind of hard to push the line onto the needle. Sometimes it pushes through like that. Just be patient. So we get a proper amount of line on there. We're gonna poke it out again. Now, we got our latch, but this time, instead of just putting that first little bit on there, we're gonna take the end of our tag end, kind of bend it so it fits in the hook, close her up, and that's what we're gonna pull through. So just like this, poking out. Hold up, there we go. Just like this, we're gonna pull the whole needle through. See that tag end coming out? Now, if we take it all like this, we have our tag end like that, we pull it all together, boom. Inside the line it goes, and it is the cleanest connection ever. Super, super clean. You'll see where it's doubled up, it goes in, it goes back out. Sorry, it goes out, it goes back in, I mean. And then right there, you'll see where it goes back to its single strand braid. So that is the loop. That is not going anywhere. Now we can move on to the next section. So we want to give ourselves a good, probably 6 feet of line. Okay, now we're going to cut it here. And we're going to give ourselves, again, about a foot or so. We're going to give this is going to be our tag end. Now we're going to use our second needle here. And before that, we're gonna get our fluoro ready to go. Stick some of this out. This is the fluoro, this is the Seaguar Premier. Really, really nice stuff. Again, very abrasion resistant, and it's a little bit thinner in diameter than other 100 pounds. Okay, we've got our sweet looking loop here. The next part is to actually join the fluoro with the braid. So the first part, we just cut off about 6 feet of line here. We're gonna give ourselves a good foot as tag end. That's gonna come into play later. What we're gonna do though is right here, again, like we've done in the past couple times, break open that braid. Sometimes it's kind of like sticky, you know, because it's compacted so tightly together. So just kind of work it a little bit and try to keep it as straight as you can. The straighter it is and the bigger that opening is, it makes your life so much easier when you're trying to put that needle in. So now we're gonna use our second needle, which is the hollow needle. And before we do that, we're gonna get the end of our fluoro and we're gonna put it inside of there. All right, and I'm putting the needle going towards the loop. So I've got my tag end going this way, I've got my loop going this way, and the needle is following the loop. So we're going up the leader here. Make that distinction clear before you put the needle in too, because you don't want to do this again. So now, like before, we start working it up. Like I kind of mentioned it gets kind of like stuck when it just comes off the spool like this. So when you're threading this, you kind of pull right from the tip and you just kind of work it down. And just to reiterate my point, this is probably the most important connection you're gonna make. So this should be at a minimum 1.5 feet. You wanna really thread this line through, and that's why I gave myself 6 feet of line when I cut that braid, because I don't wanna be stingy at all with the amount of line that I put in. Okay, so now that we've got the amount of line that we need, I'm doing it a little bit shorter because I'm here in the studio, but take your time with these. You're gonna pass that needle right through like you did, and you're gonna push it all the way through, and with that comes your fluoro. This is no longer necessary. You can put this on the side. And the next step is to slide that fluoro just inside of there and to pack it down. Pinch that and spread this down. This is initiating that finger trap. And now with nothing else, that is a strong, strong connection. That's basically it. You've got your fluoro inside that braid. The braid goes up into itself and forms a loop. All right, so we're almost done, but there's one more step left. We have successfully put this fluoro inside the braid. I only did about 1 foot. I'll say it again, 2 feet's a minimum. If you want to do more than that, feel free. We have our fluoro connected with our braid, goes inside, but if you look here, this just slides, right? There's nothing that actually keeps this on. It's a really strong connection, but if there's any slack in your system, it's all going to go out. So we need to end this somehow, and there's a multitude of different ways of doing it. This little jig makes it really nice. This is called the wind-on jig. You can get them at Blue Seas Fabrications. The traditional method is called a serve, and it's when you have another little tool that you need with little tiny braid and you wrap it on, and it takes a long time. And yeah, it works, but I found a way of doing it cheaper and faster and using the braid that we already have, and that's just by doing half hitches. So if you don't know a half hitch, all it is just going underneath the line, going like this, taking this little strand that's above it and passing through that loop. You take it, you want to pinch this so it doesn't move, slide it and make sure that's tight. So that is the half hitch. You're going to do this probably 15, maybe 20 times. This is what's going to lock everything in place here. And what's important about half hitches is that when you start doing these, you want to be going the same direction the entire time. So you can start by going over the top, but you want to be doing the same one over and over. And you'll see that once we finish here, what that's going to look like. Probably 5 or 6 of these wraps in, but I just want to make this clear. So even though I've already done my half hitches, if I take this, I can still slide it. Okay, it's kind of an issue. So another thing, and unfortunately I don't have it with me today, but it's super glue. Super glue is a really, really helpful thing when you're making wind-ons. When you get a couple half hitches down, glue it down, and that's gonna make everything kind of solidify into place. Having a nice, super quick, fast drying super glue is helpful because it saves your time, but we're gonna keep on going here. Okay, so now the finisher. So we've done our half hitches. We get this little spiral going around. You can see a little worm going through. The last thing we need to do is, I guess you can call this a full hitch. So it's doing the same thing. You pass through once and you do it again. Twice in the loop. And when you bring it down, you see that there's going to be some twists. You can actually undo those twists as you're going through. And when you do this, this is going to put that tag end 2 strands back. It makes a lot more sense when you do it yourself. But what that does is lock in that braid, your tag end, behind another little loop. So that is good. You can cut that off like so. Again, you're going to want to glue all of this down, make sure that's good to go. But that is your wind-on leader. That's it. After this, you can expect to have a really, really strong connection, a very smooth loop, and as much 100-pound or 130-pound or 200-pound as you want. Thank you guys for sticking around. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Feel free to like, subscribe. Stay tuned for the next one.